Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And the demo screen and our handouts, which we'll forward along. We'll start with positive pay first. And so that is going to be coming out of the system, and then you're going to send that to the bank. So that's the file of checks that you've processed that you're going to send to the bank. And the banks use that for comparing the checks that are cashed or cleared, so to ensure that no fraudulent checks are going through the bank. So, and that protects both the bank as well as the district or the customer. I myself have had several occurrences of this in my working career over 30 years. The most notable one, it was several thousands of dollars. It was a little less than 10,000, but there were two instances, and they were back to back at a company that I worked for, and someone had tried to cash a fraudulent paycheck, and then they tried to do another one. And the thing that kind of ticked it off was, of course, the number of the check, and that kind of keyed that off, because when you send these, you're going to send the bank your check number, the amount of the check, and it just depends how the bank wants the information, how much they want, and we can help you formulate that on your setup. So the files, they usually require either a CSV file, and the other choice is a fixed. Just the easiest one is the CSV. You'll have different columns, which the bank, you can pull that out, or, let the bank will know, send you an example of what they need. They might say, oh, we need your ABA number, we need your account number, or they might just want your account number. They'll probably say we want the check number and the amount. They may want some other fields as well. And we can work with you on that and how to arrange that. So that is going to be in your extract, and then drop down to your positive pay. And then most of the time we set it up with a CSV format. It's just easier. A fixed field will only let you do certain lengths. As you can see here, even though this is CSV, it will also give you a length. I've done these and I've had to adjust these just according to what the bank specification was. So you'd say like the first 30 spaces would need to be the payee name, and then the next 12 spaces would be the check amount, and the next would be the 10 spaces would be the date, check number, there's a void flag if needed, etc. So, and then you would use a starting date. And so what it's going to do with a starting date, it's going to start from that date, and any checks that you've processed with that date or afterwards, it's going to pull out into that CSV file, if you're using CSV, and then you would submit that to the bank, and then the bank has that, and that's kind of their little checklist of what checks are allowed to be cleared and the dollar amount that they should be. And so anything diverting from that, then, the red flags are going to go up, and they're going to be like, ding, 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 that's possible fraud. And then they'll start to act on that. So as you can see, it's protection for the bank. It's also protection from for the customer or the district. So then you just, as you say, we just pull that out, and then you would submit that to your bank. So it's, once you get it set up, it's pretty, as I like to say, easy peasy. And we've got an example of that. So say we're starting from our home screen, and we just go to our extracts and our positive pay. I've went ahead and set this up. So one thing which it doesn't allow is multiple accounts. So it just allows you to set up one type of an extract. As an example, I have a bank account number, and then I've actually put in a bank account number in like the core bank account screen. I've actually set that up with an actual number. I think I kind of use like 4567890. And then I've got the payee name, which you can pull out. I've got the check amount with a decimal. I've got a check date, a check number, and a void flag. So there are other ones which you can select, just different ones. Like the check amount can be regular or without a decimal. And there's also a spacer field. I've had districts where they said, oh, we need to have this column and we need it to like have a certain letter or something in that. That's what the bank wants. So we've kind of formulated it with a space, and then you can either just hit the C and then just copy that down with that double click in that lower right-hand corner in Excel, and then submit that file, or, you know, we can work on that together. So for this one, we'll just put in, since this session, our demo session is back in 2021, we'll go ahead and do a starting date there. So we're just going to use that 8/1/21, and then we've got our default bank account there where we see the numbers set up there, and we can generate that. And so that will create a file which has all of these checks that we have processed from 8/1/21 forward. And since in our demo instance, that would just be our August checks here. So here is that file. So you can see there's our account number. Let's kind of move this over so we can see these lined up. The payee name, that one's not quite so, they use kind of odd names in here, but you can see the ones that I kind of generated for demonstration yesterday. You know, you've got Pat, Lucas, Selma signs. So it will have that, you know, the payee name there. It's got the check amount, you know, that's 75,273.56 right there. If there's a decimal, it will include that decimal. And then there's the date the check was printed, and then the check number, and then if there's void, there would be a void flag in there. So you would just take the file in this format, and then you would open up your bank software in the secure setting with your username, password, and any other secondary identifying information. You go to the section of the bank where you would upload your positive pay information, and then you would load that in there. And then at that point, the bank should have that information, and then they can use that to verify if the checks presented for cashing or clearing are valid. So that's how positive pay works. So are there any questions related to the positive pay? And we're more than happy. I've set up several districts with this. You know, the only thing is you could only have like one bank that you would set up for this in the USAS. So if you had another one, we'd have to figure out what format to use or maybe modify that. Okay, Brett has his hand raised.
Hey, how are you?
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. Nice to put the name to the face, by the way.
Great. Good to see you too.
This might be a better question for the bank. It's only like a one-off thing that happens. So when we like pay our Amazon bill, for example, we do it through an ACH, but obviously we still kick it out as a check, and it's an electronic check for some reason. And it's still, I don't know if it pulls into that positive pay extract when I make it, but the bank always wants to flag that as an exception for whatever reason.
Because it's electronic.
We do have ACH positive pay set up too. But what's weird is like we pay our Bureau of Workers Comp online, same exact thing. That one always goes through, no issue, never have to do anything with it. But for some reason, when the Amazon ACH goes through, even if I pull it in with that, it wants to be finicky. So I didn't know if that was something that is on the USAS end, or if I just need to reach out to the bank and say, hey, is there something different I need to do? That's really the only encounter I've had where I'm like, it's just kind of annoying.
Yeah, it doesn't want to have you send those electronics. It only wants the checks then, right?
I'm guessing, but like I said, the BWC payments that go out electronically, they never get flagged. And the way we use Huntington, and they pull up the Amazon ones as a paid no issue. That's their exception.
Okay.
But even though, it does generate a check number and everything, and you can
Right.
even pull up the check image and all that stuff. So I don't know. I didn't know if that was something you've had other people bring up before or not, or if I can just reach out to the bank and see if there's something I can do with them. But
Yeah, I'd say either way, some an idea would be to generate your electronics with one set of numbers and your checks with another set of numbers, so that you could easily identify on your positive pay file, maybe like your electronics start with like a nines series of numbers,
yeah.
and then it's like 99, 1, 2, 3, 4 or something, and then your checks are like 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Then that would be easily identifiable, and then you could sort your positive pay file and just say, okay, I know the ones that I need to just delete out because those are electronic. That would be one idea, but we'll be very glad to work with you on this, so that you can get this security feature established with North Collegeville.
Gotcha. Yeah, because like I said, everything else has been pretty smooth since we've got positive pay set up, and I'm about to push out an Amazon payment today. So maybe I'll try that. I've never actually messed with adding my own check number in there, so maybe I'll give that a go and see how that goes. But no, that's all I had as far as that goes. So thank you.
Okay, sure. And feel free to call out since you've never done this before. We'll be glad to walk you through it.
Sure. Thanks.
Okay, great. All right. So the next item is the AUTOREC, or the automatic reconciliation. And that is under your utilities automatic payment reconciliation. And it's kind of a very similar setup to the positive pay. The difference is you're pulling the data out of redesign and you're sending it to the bank. And then with the automatic reconciliation, that's like when you're reconciling at the end of the month and you've got all these checks to clear. So similar type thing where you can pull that data out of the bank. You could say, I want just the checks, and I want them from, March 1st to March 31st. I'm going to pull all of those out that have cleared and, get that file all set. And then in redesign, you'll just format which columns you'll want, which match the bank file, and then you'll take it, pulling it from the bank, and you're loading it up into redesign. So, and then with that, you'll tell redesign what day you want it to reconcile. So that's kind of the overall idea. With positive pay, you're pulling it out of the software and putting it into the bank. With automatic reconciliation, that's usually your bank rec at the end of the month. You'll be pulling out of the bank and loading it into redesign. So, and it's a really nice time saver. It it can give you for the amount of time it takes to go through and mark all those checks in redesign and then reconcile it, whether you're doing it on a certain day, like you're doing your checks every day, or if you're like most districts, you do it kind of all in one fell swoop. That's a huge time saver, and you can do it within, like a couple of minutes rather than maybe half an hour or however long it takes you doing it the other method. So again, you're going to be using a CSV file or a fixed length. Of course, the CSV is preferred, and that's most often used by districts. And there are different fields which can be included. There's amount, bank account, check date or day, month, year, and check number, and the payee name or address. I always say, like, less is better. You know, if you can just go in there, and there's also like I think it's like an ignored or a spacer field where it won't, you know, try and, you know, load that in and match that up. Because it's kind of like, payee name, maybe not, because it might be different than from what the bank says as to what you have in your system. That could make an error. But I kind of like, if you have your check number and your check amount, that's perfect. You know, then it can match things up. And it'll give you a nice little report in the end. So with automatic reconciliation, unlike the positive pay, you can have multiple formats on this. So you make out your format, and then when you open it up, you would actually hit load for that to populate that, and then that will bring in all your columns here. So you would do the setup here. We will be glad to help you with that. And here's an example of the file that you would pull out of the bank. This one has check number, amount, and date. And then, so ongoing, once you have the setup completed, then you would just go into your transaction disbursements, where all of your disbursement payments are. You would select the auto reconcile button. You would select the reconciliation date that you want. You would choose the auto rec format that you want and make sure your bank account is correct. You would choose your file that you've pulled out of the bank, and then you would upload. So, and from that, you'll get a summary. So it can see, you know, it can see how many have processed, if there's any errors, how many checks there were. This one only had one check, no failed checks. You can also download a summary and get a nice pretty report there. And so it's showing you the check, the transaction date, and the amount and the total that were reconciled. And that's nice. If your bank statement has that, or you can just total that up, then you can get that amount. One other thing that I had when I did this type of activity in a company was the bank might have been off by a penny, 10 cents, $1. You know, sometimes the numbers were transposed. It was kind of a human error type thing. So those types of things, you know, we always said, you know, if it's a little bit, you know, we can write that off, you know, a penny, I'll write that off. If it's $10, I'm going to contact the bank so they can correct their records and issue me a credit or something. So that's how that works. We'll see how this is in practice here. So here's the setup, and you can see all the different fields. Here's that spacer field, because sometimes there's things that I don't want to upload that information. We can use a spacer instead. And so like reports, these are in rows, but it's actually got to flip it, and it's actually going to be your columns. So I have a sample file right here that I've used. So we're just going to say, this is the file that I've pulled out of the bank, and I'm going to go ahead and use that one. That's the file we're uploading. It's in CSV format. And so, oh, hang on. We would set that up actually under this automatic reconciliation. Okay, so here's that load. So I did two different types. You hit the load. Okay, and that's set up there. It's very similar to the, I think I was stuck on positive pay. So here's this, I did this one for bank 2. When I load this, you're going to see these columns change just a little bit. I had just these flip-flopped, and so that's how we would set that up. So this is all set up. So like a month to month, or however often you want to do that, you would just go into your transaction disbursements. You would go to auto reconcile, and we're going to change this because this is 2021. We'll just say we're doing this 8/23/2021. We're going to use, I think I used this format. If you have different bank accounts, you can use that. I'm going to choose my file, which was my AUTOREC test 2 and the CSV. I'm going to upload that. Let's give it a moment. Okay, so you can see here on the screen, there are 5 records processed here. There were no errors, and there were 4 reconciled checks. So it's going to give you the check number, the date of the check, and the amount of the check. It's going to give you a total. It's saying there was 1 failed check. So there is 1 in there. It says it does not exist, which would be, oh, you know, maybe that is something that came through that we need to look at. You know, maybe that is something that, you know, we'll just, that's something that we would definitely need to look at. So downloading that summary, you get a nice report there. And there you go, there's the report. It'll give your district, the date of the report, the reporting period, the checks that have cleared, and the total amount. So that nice amount there, if you've got a total of cleared checks on your bank rec, then you can, you know, verify that that matches. And then we're kind of like, let's go check this one out and see what the issue was with that. So, and that pretty much summarizes your AUTOREC or automatic reconciliation. All right. Does anyone have any questions regarding this? Can you see how this would be after you get the setup done? It's a very quick way to reconcile at the end of the month with those checks. Because sometimes, especially like kind of the end of the month, you'd have like the gaps where some would clear, some wouldn't clear. I mean, you know, more towards clearing the checks in the beginning, you'll have like a nice group where you can just go, I want this check to that check and clear them all. But as you get towards the end, it's kind of like a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So this is nice for that you can just do kind of everything all at once. So we will be glad to help you set this up. We've done this with several districts. And now I'd like to open up the floor for any questions regarding what we've covered today or anything else. All right. I don't see anything in the chat. And I thank you all for joining us. And if you're interested, feel free to submit a ticket and we'll be glad to help you set this up. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. We'll post this on our website in the usual spot. And we'll just go ahead and review that real quick. So just over on HCC's website, and then going from there, it's going to be in the finance, state software redesign, in the HCC training recordings, and then we'll put it under our specific topic. So we can see last time we discussed the ACH payment setup for vendors. We put that one there. And then for the positive pay and the AUTOREC, we'll go ahead and put that one right above that one. So that's where you'll find it. And I'll communicate the password to view that very soon, probably today. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. And everybody have a wonderful day. I'll go ahead and stop this.